Bob Marley is an undeniable legend. But what if I told you his music is more than art, more than protest? It is medicine. In this episode, we welcome Kathryn Leary, a longtime friend of Bob Marley, who now carries his healing legacy forward in the work of One Firelight, a wellness platform powered by spirit, sound, and the Bob Marley music catalog. We're talking what it takes to bring your full self to your healing journey, including spirit and song. Long before Western clinical treatment, there was us. Welcome to the Healing Underground, a sacred space where we remember what we've always known, reclaim what we've always had, and rise in all the ways that heal. I'm Ashley Edwards, a mental health innovator, founder of MindRight Health, and initiated Ìyá in the West African spiritual tradition of Ifa. If you've ever felt that modern wellness does not capture all of who you are, then you're in the right place. But remember, this podcast is not a lecture. It's a meditation. Let's begin. Kathryn, welcome to the Healing Underground.
Thank you so much, Ashley. It is a joy to be here with you.
It is so good to be here with you. And I have to tell everyone listening, since our first conversation, it's been so refreshing to connect with someone in the wellness space doing this work who is just so grounded and so culturally rooted in what you're doing. And I just have so much respect. So just thank you for just sharing the time with us today.
It is my joy. Thank you. Mm-hmm. And I'm very impressed with all the work that you're doing with MindRight. It lifts my spirit as well.
Thank you so much. You got to find people who lift your spirit and not drain it, right? So that's why I'm so glad that we connected, because you've been one of those people since we've met. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Okay, so Kathryn, let's begin with One Firelight. So for those new to your work, how would you describe the work of One Firelight, not just what you do, but also the soul behind it?
Yeah, oh my gosh. The soul behind it is the healing medicine that Bob Marley brings to the world, continues to bring to the world. It's an online platform that is all about fitness and wellness. We have over 500 videos from yoga, Pilates, kickboxing, dance, all kinds of meditation, sound healing. And our goal through this subscription program is to provide a really unique way of staying healthy, of staying fit, while you're listening to the music of Bob Marley. And you're allowing that sound to come into your cells, to come into your mind as you're working out. So you're hearing the messages, but you're also feeling the energy, the healing energy of his music. So it's an exciting, exciting platform. And we are about to launch something new. We have our subscription classes, but we're also going to add symposiums. So it's going to be the One Firelight Symposium series. And the first one is designed as a virtual salon to help people move through the daily challenges of their lives. And that's going to launch next month. We're super excited about it.
Congratulations. That is so exciting. As a Bob Marley fan myself, I would love to move my body to his music and feel that healing energy that you're talking about. Sounds like a great opportunity.
We are all about calming the mind, moving the body, and nourishing your soul.
Yes. Yes. And Kathryn, I'd actually love to take this maybe a step back to the beginning, because you told me something very interesting the first time we talked. You told me that what the public doesn't really know about Bob Marley, or let me say maybe what many people may not know, is beyond being a legendary artist, Bob was also a healer. I'd love to know if you could share with our listeners, when did you first know that Bob Marley was a healer? Can you tell us that story, Kathryn?
I certainly can. It started for me a long time ago when I was a college student at Antioch College on an exchange program in Jamaica. And I was studying at the Jamaica School of Art, the Jamaica School of Drama, and the Jamaica School of Dance. And I was there, yes, to study, but also to heal. I had gone through a very death by a very rare cancer in my family. And the person was a celebrity. My cousin was Diana Sands, who was in the original company of A Raisin in the Sun on Broadway, and then did 6 Broadway shows throughout the 60s as I was growing up. So I grew up with this incredible person who was very, very close to me and very spiritually connected to me. And I was with her the night before she died. I was visiting her in the hospital. And there was this moment where I just kept questioning God. I was so angry that at 39, her life was being snuffed out when she had so much promise, so much talent. And she was a contemporary to Cicely Tyson and James Earl Jones and, Ossie Davis, Ruby Dee. And she was the one that was leaving and all the others were living. I was just trying to sort that out. And we had a beautiful exchange that last night in the hospital. She was unable to speak. And so I said, just think about what it is you would want me to know. And I'm going to try and feel it. I'm going to be very still, very quiet and try to feel it. And I just felt all this love pouring out, all of this amazing energy pouring out from her. And she was unable to speak. Her eyes were open, but the nurse had told me to just stand in her line of vision, which I did. And I said to her, I feel your love. Thank you so much for everything you've given me throughout my life. And tears came down her face. So I knew that we had had this communication, which was my first real experience with telepathic communication, if you will. And I asked God right then and there, I said, I'm angry with you, but I want to know what happens to energy. What happens to people's energy? And Lord, asking that question, I went back to college and I was unable to function. I was in grief. Our whole family was. My cousin was close to each of my parents and my siblings in different ways. She was left-handed. My other brother was left-handed. She taught him how to bowl, tie his tie, that kind of connection, right? Blood connection. And I decided, since I was at Antioch and they offer, unique ways to study, I did an independent study to go to Jamaica. And I thought there, at least I could heal. And when I got there, of course, when you're walking around with pain, all you do is attract more pain. That's people who were also dealing with different kinds of challenges. It was 1974. So it was a really interesting time in Jamaica. They were sort of wrestling with connecting to Cuba and becoming, sort of socialist. And there was a lot happening at the time. And people were in this upheaval trying to figure out where they stood. If you grew your locks and became a Rasta, then you were considered, the dregs of society. And of course, I connect with a boyfriend who has locks and who's crossed out by his family, And I had a roommate who was going through her drama. But the interesting thing is the roommate had a good friend who was living with a musician. And she said, let's just go over and listen to music. And she did that literally every single day. And the musician happened to be Bob Marley. I had no idea who he was. You've got to think back to the 70s when there were no cell phones, there's no Google, there's no researching on the spot who people are. And I grew up with 2 brothers who were both musicians. So I always had bands, people in the house playing music. Oh, not unusual to me. But I would notice that Bob would always stare at me. There were 3 of us Black women sitting together, American women talking. And he would come into the room and he had like the bench press machine and he would do his workout. He was always in his body. When you didn't hear the blender whirring where he was making, fresh juices, you then saw him working out on his body or out in the front yard, playing soccer, football, as they call it. And I would catch him staring at me, and the stare was just so deep. I felt like he was going right into my soul. And it didn't feel sexual in any way. It just, I couldn't quite figure it out. And we would, at night, go and listen to the band play, and they would play out in the yard. I had no idea they were rehearsing for a big London, performance. I didn't really know what the business was. But this one night, we were standing there. I was about 3 feet, 4 feet from him, and he was playing the guitar, and he was playing No Woman, No Cry. They were working on that for the performance. And he stared at me the entire time. And I felt this telepathic message from him, which I had experienced from my cousin at her deathbed at Sloan Kettering Hospital. I felt this from him. And he said, you have got to let go of this pain. You have got to release it. You have so much work to do. And I went back to my apartment and I had my applications for graduate school for Stanford and Harvard, a couple of schools. And I used them to clean my ganja, right? Because that's all I would do. I was there. I was just in so much pain and I was trying to dulce with ganja and, that was part of the culture, was a counterculture at the time in Jamaica. And I went back, I dusted off my applications, filled them out, sent them in, somehow took the GREs, right? Somehow had enough winning spell in place to do that. And sent in the application and was accepted to Stanford. And so it's literally Bob Marley who sent me off to the MBA program to find my way forward in life, because I was not doing well at all. I was in deep, deep, deep depression. And in those days, we didn't really label that feeling as depression. And it was before funeral homes were offering, grief counseling, et cetera. So I was really on my own trying to find it, find peace, find a way forward. And it's Bob, go forward.
Wow. You said a whole lot just now. I would love to go back a little and pause when you said, first of all, Bob Marley is playing You No Woman, No Cry, just live, just naturally, and you are witnessing it and experiencing it. And then you said you started to receive a telepathic message at the moment. Did you feel like you understood what was taking place because of the experience with your sister, or did it click afterwards?
I knew right then and there as it was happening, because literally it was just months after I had experienced it with my cousin.
Wow.
And so I knew right away. I mean, it was very mystical. It was overwhelming in a way, because I suddenly realized I was in this very mystical experience, that everything that was happening at Hope Road, which was Bob's home, had mystical energy that he was the commander of. It all just came to a deep understanding very quickly.
It's amazing how much can happen spiritually in moments of stillness and calm. Like do you think he was aware of this healing gift that he carried with just his presence?
That's such a great question, because I've wondered that on so many levels. I've wondered if he realized what he did for me. I believe he did.
Mm-hmm.
And I've wondered if that experience that we had anything to do with his performances in London. If he took something from that healing that led him even more healing to everyone that was in that concert hall.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And it was such a powerful, powerful performance for them. It was Chris Blackwell, founder of Island Records, had set up this tour for them. And when they performed in London, there were so many Jamaicans and local people who knew his music that they were singing along with all of the songs. So Chris was so surprised by that he rented the portable sound studio from the Rolling Stones. And second night they recorded it. And the Bob Marley live album is what came out of that experience. So every time I listen to that album, I just think, oh my gosh, I was there for all the rehearsals. I didn't even know what I was listening to other than just guys playing music. It was just such an incredibly powerful experience. And then fast forward, I had completed my MBA at Stanford, came out, went to the advertising business, and spent my life working in marketing and then international marketing. Worked in Japan, South Africa, helped American companies do business in those countries as an international marketing consultant. And then there was a point where I decided I really wanted to move into the holistic field. I was always, and then of course, spiritual experiences helped fuel that thinking. And so I studied to become a yoga teacher. I started taking yoga, and then one of my instructors, after 4 or 5 years, said, you should really go be an instructor. So I trained for it. And then eventually I was invited to teach at the very first Bikram yoga studio in Jamaica. Very first studio in the Caribbean. Bikram yoga is a type of practice, and it is found in just about every country in the world. It had not yet come to the Caribbean. It landed there. I went to teach there, and while I was there, I went past Bob's house, 56 Hope Road, and realized it was a museum. I'd never been back to Kingston since those days. And I was able to actually go into this house that meant so much to me when I was in this healing journey. And when I got there was a message from Bob. He came to me and he said, I knew you'd be back. This time you've come as a healer. And I was blown away. I really was, because I hadn't connected with that energy since then. I went to Stanford, then you get caught up in graduate school, and then you get caught up in life career. It was always in me that this man was powerful. But it was when I reconnected decades later, and his energy was still there, and he was still supporting me. And then I realized, that he saw my future and wanted me to heal and go forward. And so that was part of the impetus for starting One Firelight. Been teaching yoga, started experimenting with including music in yoga classes. I took the 26 poses of the Bikram series, and I spent about 2-3 months listening to Bob's music, and I was finding the exact messages in his song to match the exact objectives, the healing objectives of the postures. And I put together this incredible series of Bob's music for a 90-minute practice. And it was such a huge success. People loved it. They felt that they had gone deeper in their practice. They didn't realize that they could go deeper. And it was just the energy that was coming out from Bob.
So we've talked about the incredible impact of Bob Marley's legacy, both personally and just around the world. But I'm curious for Kathryn, as someone who is so intimately connected to the legacy, what recent impact are you seeing?
Billboard magazine reported during the pandemic that global streams of Bob's music increased 23%. So people all over the world were reaching for one love. Every little thing is going to be all right. They were looking for that medicine to help pull them through. And the Today Show had a whole conversation with Al Roker and Savannah Guthrie, and they were talking about how much Bob's music helped them get through the pandemic. So I see it all the time. I see where people are reaching for Bob's music. And even if you watch TV, you'll see so many ads that include Bob's music, sandals and so many other companies that incorporate that music. So it says to me that he has a healing vibe and people understand it. And if you think about it, he's been gone for almost 44 years from this planet. And yet it's still recognized instantaneously from all age groups. You can talk to children and they know One Love or Three Little Birds.
So with all of this impact, Kathryn, what's next for One Firelight?
Oh, that's such a good question. So I mentioned earlier that we're doing the virtual salon and the symposium series that's in development. And I also created a program called Spirit Quest, where I would take my yoga students to Jamaica. We did several trips. We go in February so that we can be there for Bob's birthday. Every year at 56 Hope Road, Bob's home, which is now the museum, there is a ginormous birthday party for Bob. And people fly in from all over the world to celebrate this. All day long, musicians are playing, artists are displaying their work, handcrafts are being sold. The Jamaica Zoo comes out with animals for kids. I mean, it's a really wonderful day at Bob's home every single year on February 6th. So we organize trips to go there. And during that time, we, of course, participate in his birthday celebration. But then the tour that I designed takes us to all the places where Bob would go to heal himself and nourish his soul. And it's really quite exciting. People who have gone on this tour have had transformational experiences.
How can our listeners find out more about this tour? This sounds incredible.
Oh, just come to onefirelight.com. And you can also reach out to me directly if there's something in particular you'd like to know more about One Firelight. It's Kathryn at onefirelight.com. Kathryn at onefirelight.com. And I welcome your inquiries.
And Kathryn, you've also mentioned Stanford Business School, and I know we are both proud alums of Stanford. I also know that Stanford and other elite institutions often operate in the world of reason and logic and capitalism and strategy, but we both have also chosen to walk a spiritual path, which is sometimes seen as woo-woo or honestly just seen as a bit unserious by peers in that space. So I'm curious, how do you navigate both worlds? And what advice would you have for someone who's interested in going deeper into spirituality, but may be a bit nervous due to the stigma?
That's such a rich question. It really is. And if you could think about it, I mean, we're generations apart. I was at Stanford 1975 to 77 at the Graduate School of Business. There were only 15 of us African-American students there. And we were sitting next to the son of the chairman of the board of General Motors and other places. And we were dealing with people who really didn't know Black people, who were used to African-American people as being servants, chauffeurs, et cetera. It was a very intense time. But having come from, the beautiful nesting energy of Bob Marley into Stanford, I was grounded in spirit when I started. So I think it's so important that people develop spiritual practices that keep them going, whether it's burning incense or burning sage or working with crystals, things that can nourish your soul and bring a sense of peace to you. That enables you to stay connected to spirit, stay connected to the ancestors, right? That, to me, that's what incense smoke is about, sending that energy up to the ancestors in gratitude for all that they have done for us. And that enables you to live in those two different worlds, that world of strategy and serious thought and hard work, but also staying connected to your soul and your spirit. It really is about having little rituals that serve you, whether it's doing yoga stretches first thing in the morning or sitting down quietly and meditating, just being still and taking a few deep breaths. Things that enable you to continue to connect to your soul and to your spirit.
Thank you so much, Kathryn. Thank you for the work you do. Thank you for being here today and just sharing the story with our listeners. Thank you for going underground with me. The journey doesn't end here. If you'd like some support along the way, feel free to explore my free guided meditations. Or if you're ready to have someone walk beside you on this path, visit MindRight to start your healing journey. May your healing be sovereign, may it be sacred, and may it be yours.